Hi, let me start by introducing myself. My name is Julia Robinson, and today I chose a traditional Mexican dish to explore for this cultural video. I chose a Mexican dish in part because of the rich cultural representation here in the United States. I have a deep respect for the values and pride of my family members and friends, and I just wanted to represent their culture and create this dish in the most respectful way possible. And so before I go into the dish that I actually prepared, I was just gonna take some time to give some background information on the culture. The most important social unit in this community is family, and it's one of the reasons also that I wanted to focus my attention on it. As far as roles go, children are highly valued, and the interest in the family comes above the interest of the individual. In traditional family roles, the father is looked at as the head of the household, and he is typically going to be your breadwinner, and it is not uncommon for the women to stay home and focus more on typical what we would consider domestic duties. We see here, though, in the United States that there is more often a change in that role, and we see a lot more women that work outside of the home nowadays. And although typically families of the first generation are large here in the United States as in Mexico, being that children are also again so valued, we see that we're starting to see changes in second and third generation to what we would consider more typical of the United States, 2 to 3 children. Typical health beliefs and practices would include elements of Indian supernatural rituals combined with European folk medicine. Health is considered to be a gift from God, and illness is almost always due to outside forces. Being that Catholicism is practiced at almost 82% in Mexico and also here in the United States, we see that that religion is most commonly practiced among the culture. We also see that with traditional health beliefs and practices, prayer is very common on behalf of the sick person, and amongst this, even pilgrimages may be made to religious shrines, especially for those as far as Virgin Mary or St. Francis go. We tend to see a serious involvement and opinion of God's personal involvement with illness and disability. So with that, we see prayer being a huge part of tackling those illnesses. The religious affiliation tends to lead towards many of the same holidays that we celebrate, including Christmas and Easter. Also, we see Day of Dead, Las Posadas, Independence Day, Cinco de Mayo. We also have quinceañeras that they celebrate. And one of the things that I have always loved growing up in this culture and with these families is that the representation of food and the importance around the food that is being served at these holidays is massive, and it is almost the center of these celebrations. Some of the more traditional dishes that you will see being served at these celebrations includes enmolada, pozolo, tortas, chiles en nogada, chiltemota, tacos de papa, sopa de lima, cemento poblano, and amongst these, I would say that your common ingredients and traditional food that you'll see most is going to be corn, beans, squash, local fruits, vegetables, meat, pork served very commonly, and then amongst that, a wide variety of chilies. I would say that chilies and the heat and the flavor and spices are one of the best parts about these dishes. Some of the adoptions that we've seen here in the United States as far as food habits go include incorporating more fruits and vegetables that are local, more low-fat milk than they did in Mexico, and we're looking at possibly less saturated fat, sugar, but then also we see more incorporation of fast foods. And because of the fact that acculturation is to a certain degree in the later generations common, we see more of an American diet as far as American fast food goes. We see some things like garlic, onion, orange, aloe vera, and other popular plants used as herbal remedies for certain types of illnesses. And then once we see later generations here in the United States, if there is access to health care, there's also a steep acculturation for changing to Western medicine, and a lot of what I would say are more common American traditions as far as the chicken noodle soup goes, comfort food in times of illness, and unless need be for really a hospital visit, there, like I said earlier, is a great call for prayer in times of need. I would say that we see a heavy influence of Mexican cuisine here in the United States and Mexican American restaurants, and I would say that we have really embraced the food and seek it out very often. As far as adaptations and changes that are being made, I would say it really depends on where you go specifically. If you're closer geographically to Mexico versus if you're up here in Montana at the moment, you're going to see a fluctuation in the change of specific dishes you're going to receive. For my recipe today, I chose a smothered green chili chicken burrito, which I had not tried before, and I will say I ran into some difficulties with it. One of the things that I love about Mexican cuisine is the sauces. And let me tell you, they are a labor of love. And so in cooking it, I think I ended up throwing away close to 2 batches from either searing it or not cooking it enough or not cooking it quickly enough. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the ingredients. As far as the creamy green chili sauce, it called for butter, flour, garlic, chicken broth, cumin, dried oregano, black pepper, chopped green chilies, and then it called for a few other more spicy chilies, but I can't handle them, and so I did without. And then it also calls for sour cream. And so I tried preparing the sauce first, and then I set that aside, and a lot of the recipes actually recommend that you do the sauce in advance anyways, and if you want, you can always freeze it. That's what my grandmother-in-law had always done. She had always done the sauces first, and then even sometimes she would do it with the pork or chicken, whichever she was choosing, and then she would set it aside while she was doing the rest of the dish. And then for the filling, it was, I did chopped chicken. I normally have it shredded, but this specific recipe called for it chopped. So I did 3 cups of chopped chicken, and then I normally would also do the salsa by hand, but just to save time, and since I was focusing most of my attention on the sauce, I just used a store-bought salsa to go with it. And again, it also has cumin, oregano, cheddar, and then flour tortillas. And then basically what I ended up doing is putting the filling and fixing it within the burrito, wrapping them up, setting them, stacking them almost like enchiladas, and then baking them, and then taking them out, and then putting the sauce on. And I might have ventured away from the instructions a little bit from my grandmother-in-law's instructions, but I did it twice, and the second time it came out. So I am going to switch over to my phone now so I can just show you guys a little bit of a recap of what it ended up looking like. And yeah, thank you so much.